You are now tuning in to TNJ Radio Show.
We live. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely. Loud and clear. What's that? What's that
Absolutely.
you got on your
My
head,
name
man?
is LeBron. Oh, man, I'll get to that in a minute. Looks good, don't it? Yes, it looks good. My name is LeBron J.
William A.
And
Thomas.
this is... All right. And this is the TNJ Radio Show. And we're going to get into it today. We're really excited about these topics, man. But before we get into that, man, how was your weekend, man? I ain't get a chance to talk to you like that.
Great weekend. The end of, well, no, actually it's not the end, but I thought 7-on-7 football was going to be over, but there's another tournament, which means more money.
For real? Where's the tournament
at? This one is in Dallas, Texas.
So when you rolling out, I see y'all roll as a family when you rolling out.
You know what? I actually haven't planned. I just learned about it today. I haven't planned much in regards to it. I don't know if the kids, get a bus or whatever, but it's in July, so that's a good time to go.
Mm-hmm.
You been to Texas before?
I got you, man. So, man, I went once, but it was, it was like a late. It wasn't even a layover. It was a one stop. I never stopped there, but I heard it was dope down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Houston was definitely nice.
Okay, so what the topics we're going to talk about? I know there's a lot of stuff in the news. What's the topics we're going to talk about today?
Well, just a couple of them, right off the top. We definitely want to talk about the new anti-Asian hate crime bill that was just signed into law by, or the bill that was signed by President Joe Biden. We also have a little bit of cooking going on with Kwame Brown, as well as various other things.
Drop that seasoning.
Before that, did you hear about Brad Pitt?
No, keep me up to speed.
Okay, so I saw that he had got 50-50 custody, and they had made it like big loss for Angelina Jolie. So it just kind of weirded me out the way that they kind of worded it. In my opinion, whenever there's any type of split, it's a loss for the kids, but 50-50 custody is probably the next best thing for them. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, man. I mean, what they're raising black kids, Asian kids, man, they got the whole rainbow. So
all the children
I guess,
in the world.
I mean, what are the people saying? Like, are they mad that what's his name? Who are we talking about?
With Brad Pitt. Well,
Brad Pitt. There you go, Brad Pitt. I ain't even heard about that story. Yeah. So, what's the backlash with that?
Well, it's more so as if there's a winner and a loser out of everything. Now, like I said, in my opinion, the loser whenever there's fighting is always going to be the kids. But if you could come to some type of agreement where both of you can equally parent the kids, and let's be honest, neither of them are broke, so it's a win-win.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. Hollywood is weird anyway, so I don't know. I don't even know what their deal was, why they broke up, but I digress.
Right.
Yeah, but definitely let's jump in this topic, man. Well, first off, man, before we get into, because we really don't talk about politics all like that, but we just couldn't resist on this subject, with this crime bill, you know what I mean? But before we jump into that, I want to just, before I tell my views, I want to tell how I got to my view, just give me a second here. I just like to take it slow while the callers come in. And why, if you're here on social media, on YouTube, definitely hit that like button, hit that subscribe and the notification. And also in the description, if you want to, we want to hear from you, man. If you're a historian, if you know anything about this Asian hate, or you want to talk about Kwame, definitely hit that description button, right? But let me give you a little backstory about me for the people who don't know, right? Oh man, so 80s baby. I'm not afraid of my age. Born in 1980. Was raised in Wilkinsburg for the first portion of 0 to 9. And just the crazy thing is my mom, we moved to Braddock about 1989, right? Oh. Now. Braddock shaped me, to be honest. Never was a street dude before, but I saw street dudes. I saw all types of people, and I learned how to maneuver through the sewer, if you will, in that area, right? But I knew I wanted better. I'm pretty sure, Will, you could agree with me on that. Growing up where you grew up, yeah. But I wanted better. I wasn't no about it dude. I know. Thank goodness to my late brother Dante. He was a rapper, but he knew how to maneuver through the streets, and I always wanted to be like him. I always wanted to be like him. He had all the girls. He people liked him, and he was a heck of a artist. I remember one time, the late Jason Lewis, if anybody know him, I remember I called him. But one time, this guy from Wu-Tang, I wasn't a fan of Wu-Tang then. I was on my East Coast stuff, but I wasn't a fan of him or the Wu-Tang Clan. No, I didn't know. My friend Jim Lou knew all about it, and this dude named Nabingi, they used to talk about it all the time, but I didn't know anything about Wu-Tang, but I digress. So I'm chilling at my brother's house, and this dude come in with this nice whip. And, I ain't thinking nothing. I'm sitting there playing Sega at the time in the living room. He leaves. My brother tells me who this guy is. I'm like, really? So the first person I called Jason Lewis and told him. So he's probably like, he was the only one I knew, However, and, oh, yeah, got to give a shout out to my sister, too. She was about it, man. I remember she did some wars there in them streets. So definitely respected my sister as well. But, so after that, I was trying to figure things out, fast forward 1999, decided to go to college, and my first class I took, it was an African American psychology class, and that's when I started learning about foreign policies and different things like that. And I learned about capitalism, I learned about communism, and I was trying to find my identity, if you will. You agree with that, Will? Trying to find your identity when you're 19, 20, 21. Mm-hmm. And anyway, I would say my 20s, I became a little radical, if you will, and that's saying that I'm speaking lightly on that. It wasn't until Obama came in that I started being a little bit more free thinker, if you will, independent thinker. And what I noticed, a lot of people start becoming independent thinkers now after this during this election. You would agree with that, Will?
Right. Well, real quick, what do you mean by independent thinker?
Well, before we were taught to be Democrats, to be frank, right? I took this African American psychology class. We learned about Africa and all these other things, but they were still pushing towards Democratic Party, right? Mm-hmm. I think this is the first time that I can remember that the Democrat or Black people are starting to think in different ways. You get what I'm saying? Right. So at this point, I became an independent thinker, and I started looking back into history. So I started being a historian because I didn't really pay attention to history in the Woodland Hills public school system. You know what I mean? Mm. So, at this point, I am definitely objective. So the people who's watching, we want objective people come in and tell us about what you know. If you know anything about the history of China, because if I don't know too much about China. So definitely hit us up. So what you think about Joe Biden signing that bill?
Well, so I have a couple of thoughts, in regards to it. So first, whenever I think, and I actually have a few Asian relatives, and I sit there and think of, well, the why first. Whenever there's any type of bill or law that's being passed, it's always to, say that something being done is being done good or bad, as well as to say whether it's being done at a frequency that's enough for it to be able to, be, signed into law. So those are the things that I look at, whenever I look at any type of bill that's being passed. Now, with the particular, anti-Asian, hate crime bill, first, I'm, it's terrible for, any type of crime to be done against any community, especially a minority community. But what I think that a lot of people are concerned about, especially in ones like the Black community, is, okay, well, there are things that may be happening, but there are things that we've been dealing with for some time. So those are some of the things that, and I definitely like to hear, other, people's opinions in regards to it. But, that's my starting place, is the why.
Okay. Now, do you believe that agents was getting harassed and like the media is portraying it?
Well, from what I've seen, there's always been some type of harassment that would go on with, different, against different people. The question is the who. So the media would depict it, or the mainstream media would depict it as the who is more so, white supremacists, Trump supporters, or there's a depiction of that. But there's always been, some sort of disparity, especially between, at times between the Black community and the Asian community, depending on what's going on. So you see these different YouTube videos, and it could be either way. There might be one where a Asian is getting attacked by a Black person, or it might be one where the Asian is like beating down a Black person, and I've seen some of them where it was Black women, so it's just a lot of different nuances to where it's kind of questionable at the timing of when and why this was actually passed.
Oh man, you know what it was. This is a money grab right here, but definitely want to. We have some callers ready to call in. Just bear with us one moment. We're going to just set the scene up. Then we're going to get you on. The guy who's about to come on, I'm really excited. He blew the top off last week, man, with information. But definitely, man, it's funny, man, because when the LA riot started, everybody think it was from Rodney King beating. But it actually didn't start from that. It was actually a young 16-year-old Black girl went into a Chinese store, and she got in an argument with the Asian woman. She turns around, the girl shot her right in the head. Now, every Black people were calm until they went to court and she was acquitted. She got community service. That's when the riots actually started. And if you look at like San Francisco and California, agents been coming after Black people for years. You know what I mean? Now we can go back to when Chinese people start coming over here in the early 1900s. They did get treated unfairly, But now I want to ask the caller who's calling in: are Asians pretending to be passive? Because we know their history. They're sitting there human sacrificing. They they created gunpowder, all types of stuff, all types of war. But now they're portraying themselves as passive. And I'm not hating on Asians right now. This is just a conversation. Now, why is it that fact that we're not getting the laws as Black people that we want, but these other groups are coming in? So right there, we're going to give them our first caller real quick.
See.
Yes.
Okay, we have
Yes,
Mr.
Mr. Fawn.
Social Climate.
How y'all doing today?
We're doing fantastic.
Great. Awesome.
Man.
Yes.
I love the subject. Can y'all hear me good?
Hear you great.
Yeah, man. Let's get right into it. Oh my goodness. Like
yes.
This Asian exclusion, right? The Chinese Exclusion Act, 1882. Now, this was like when you had like labor unions and stuff real heavy. Slavery had just 1865. And so you had a lot of competition for work. Feel me? As so-called African Americans were trying to get into the labor force. As slaves, we did everything anyway for free. We were doing everything for free. Now you had different immigrant groups coming in, and some groups had more difficulty depending on your color or your proximity to being Black. Now the Asian groups, they were being discriminated on. This is true, and they did have a Chinese Discrimination Act that went in 1882. Now the thing of it is, you guys were mentioning timing. It's kind of ironic how another group always seems to get an act or something right in the time of our need when we're supposed to be getting something. It's always interesting how that works out because slavery just ended. We didn't get 40 acres and a mule yet.
Right.
And they already switching the policies and subject matter over to another group. And it's always funny how that works out like that. Even during this election, we were looking at ourselves as for the Democrats to do something big for us, and they're pushing for other groups, and they're fighting and having other groups take the place of the African American. That's always been the base of the Democratic group. And this Asian Exclusion Act is another example of that, man. I don't really see across the country people being extra with people from Asian descent and different things like that. I just don't see it in my neighborhood, or I've never really seen bullying specifically to the Asian group like I've seen racism African Americans. I mean, we talked about last week, right? We had they Tulsa, Oklahoma. Like I've never seen that happen in Chinatown.
Yeah. It's crazy how they stick together too, but I always had a great relationship with Asians as well. They've been really good to me. Now, are you familiar with what I was talking about that shooting that happened in '92 during the LA race riots? You familiar?
The race riots. We talking about in Pittsburgh, the one with
No, it was in LA. Yeah. And this is Rodney. I think Rodney King was 91-ish, I think.
Yeah.
And then so it was a big story back then. We were young, obviously, but the Asian girl, the African American girl went into the store and she got into an argument. I think she threw the money at the lady at the desk, and she walks out. The girl shot her in the back of the head.
Yeah,
you remember that a little vaguely?
I remember.
And then they went to court, and she ended up getting like community service, right? And that's when the riot started, because you had the first situation with Rodney King when the cops got acquitted, and then that happened, and then that's when they just went buck wild,
Yeah, I do remember. Yeah, I remember that, man. That was definitely some troubling times, man. There's definitely been some energy that's not good in our community, because you have different groups that come in and they're able to get businesses, they're able to be successful, and it causes some negative energy, because we're looking at our group and saying, why aren't we able to, be in those positions to get those businesses and stuff like that and get that support? I've never seen a commercial for Asian Chinese food or anything like that.
They're doing their thing. You're right.
Right?
You're right about that.
We get support, but when we put out a business, first time we see that something's tacky or not up to par what it's supposed to be, we don't go back there. Asian restaurants, they're getting violations all the time. We're still going to eat Chinese food. And so it's a mentality thing, and they get what they want because, like you said, they stick together. They got this policy put in, and we've been trying to get some type of policy for our people for 150, 400 years. They've been doing stuff to us, and we've been unable to get policies that work. The policies somehow always
you know what, Fawn, that brings a good question. So when you say that they're in solidarity, right?
Yes, sir.
What I see, and you tell me if you agree with this, a lot of times within the Black community, there is a lot of focus on non-Black things.
Yes.
And that are put at the forefront, whether it has to do with, sexual preference, gender, those different things. What's your opinion as far as, whether and I'm, keep in mind, I understand that, different people can get bullied or different people need help in different ways and stuff like that. But when we break up and lose that focus, how would you say that is affecting us and the things that we're trying to get?
Man, it's the focus is very important, man. I think it comes down to, just understanding like what we're missing in the family unit, man. It comes down to like the simple things like what you believe, what's your culture. Like if you're going to marry into an Asian family, there's no way you're marrying into an Asian family without understanding their culture and who they are and what they believe. And certain things they don't compromise. And so the big thing is it doesn't even matter if they're from Taiwan or they're from China or Japan. They're going to have a strong culture and they're going to believe and stick to it. And sometimes the culture overpowers money. Like it don't matter what industry they're going to be in. No matter if they're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, they're going to stick by certain cultural practices. So our problem is now we're having is what culture do we stick by? We're in the American melting pot. A lot of us don't speak our native language. We don't have our original names. And so like that affects the socioeconomic landscape of how you're doing business because their culture blends off into their business practice. They do business to family. The whole family's working the restaurant. We live on the same.
That's true.
We live on the same street with our aunts and cousins and don't talk to them.
That's facts. Facts.
Right? We have people that almost in trouble with almost having a relationship with their cousin or something because their family don't talk. Shameful stuff. Say things like this, but we got to get down to the nitty gritty. This is the difference between when you talk about them being able to get policies in and them backing each other, and we don't have each other's back.
Well, to piggyback on that, this is what I believe. This all started with the Nixon administration. Henry Kissinger, what's his name? Henry Kissinger. He is the Kissinger. There you go. He is the guy who did this. He secretly went over to China around that time to set up that deal. Now, what I believe in like you're a historian buff, you can help me out here. But before that, no one stepped in Asia or any in that continent since like 1940s.
Yeah,
they're communists too, right?
Yeah, they didn't play that, man. I mean, since Marco Polo came in and tricked them with the opium.
Yep. And so I think the guy who was running it in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, he died. And then they had the what's his name? Deng Xiaoping. I don't know how to say his name, but they were so poor, and they realized that since the Bretton Woods system, I know we'll know a lot about that with the monetary value, the system, and I think all the countries after World War II they started doing business together, except for Asia, right? And Henry went over there and made a deal. That's basically what happened. So they started doing capitalist things.
Yes, sir.
But they were still, with the one track system. Now, also in 1999, when Bill Clinton was in office, he did that trade deal with them. And then in 2001, now I'm talking about NBA now, they end up getting Yao Ming. And so we start making so much money from China at this point. Anybody familiar with what happened with Yao Ming? So when Yao Ming played his first game against Shaq, our average games was getting 9 million people on watching the games.
Yeah.
There was 200 million people watching at 10 o'clock in the morning.
I remember that because when they were picking for the All-Star team, it was fan voting, fan selection. They so many fans to the NBA. Yao Ming became number one over Kobe and Shaq and all them. He was getting number one vote for the All-Star game.
Absolutely. And then so at that point, they became global. So now they're about to be the powerhouse, if you ask me. With the GDP, I think they're about to pass us because of the trade deal and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, they own a lot of stock in America. So lightweight, a lot of countries. This is how they American politics, because American businesses are worldwide. And then you can buy stock in whatever business you want. And so a lot of countries own a lot of shares of a lot of our big mega corporations. And so they have influence on American government because, a lot of American policies are written by, there's a particular corporation, I don't have the name of it now, but this corporation, their job is they write policies for our candidates, for Republicans and Democrats and politicians.
Wow.
So they get their policies and their speeches from a company. So you imagine this company, they own more than 50% stock in this country. They own more than 50% stock in this company. This company is now writing speeches for politicians.
Wow.
So who's
then you got the vaccines that's made over there.
Yeah,
everything's made over there. Big business.
Influence, man. Major influence on what's going on in America, and some of these things they didn't want to talk about when they talk about voter suppression and all that kind of stuff, and Russia having an influence on our voting system. You got to look at the companies and advertising, TV, and media, and all that kind of stuff. Man, they're putting big money into our country.
Yes, you're right about that. I'm going to play this clip real quick. Set up the clip where Henry Kissinger talked about this and how he talked to the Biden administration to make up with China.
Right.
Can you pull that up, Will?
Yep.
And it is important for each side to understand the sensitivities of the other.
Former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger said the incoming Biden administration should move quickly to restore lines of communication with China that frayed during the Trump years, or risk a crisis that could escalate into military conflict.
Unless there is some basis for some cooperative action, the world will slide into a catastrophe comparable to World War I, with a technology that is even more difficult to control than the technology of the period then.
What you think about that, Fawn?
Technology boom. I mean, striking business deal. We talking about money, right? Money over like other beliefs and stuff like that. They're like, you know what? We're gonna do business. We have to do business with people because they're coming so intelligent, technologically. Like, if we don't get with them and do business with them, they're going to surpass us. And it seems like he made a move, man. And you'd be surprised to find out in American politics, like some of the things, different things that's happened had to happen for us to stay in the position we are, to be number one in the world. Are we number one anymore? Is what you're asking, right?
That's the question. Yeah.
Countries are taking over. Some of the deals we made weren't that good.
Think
about that, Will.
Cito had said, "Don't take any vaccine from China." I agree. But I mean, on the technological end, the landscape on that is changing. A lot of companies, well, there were some companies that moved over there that came back. They might be moving back over again. So we'll see what ends up happening in regards to that. But everything, it revolves around a tax game. It revolves around who has money where. So with the Chinese government, they've been playing a long game since the 90s. You know, I don't know if anyone remembers back then. It was more like, that third world country and so on, and they just been, you know, investing. Unfortunately, you know, at times it may be at the expense of the people who are there.
Well, look, Will, they're stabilizing their position, man, because we were talking about the population of the African American growing in the next 30 years. You know, Asians, man, they want to get their slot. They want to get in, fit in where they know they need to be, because think about it. If we're the majority and we're the ones hiring people, they need that Asian Exclusion Act to make sure they can still get into positions where they want to be in. So people are already thinking about, this is what like the anti-racism or racism against the white male is all about, because once the population switches, and let's say we're the majority, like we were talking about last week in Wakanda, like these people still want, they're going to want to have their affirmative action. Their affirmative action is starting before we ever even get reparations.
Now, and so, real quick for anyone that's just joining us, we're talking about Joe Biden. He recently signed the anti-Asian hate bill. You know, and if you want to join on the show, click on the link in the chat. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Ron.
So we know that Asians don't vote. I'm just confused. Why would he sign this if Asians don't vote?
Why vote, man? They have the power, man. They have the money, the power, the businesses, economic power. They have a country backing them. Countries backing them, actually.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Who backs the black African American? Is it Nigeria? Is it Cameroon? Is it Congo? Is it Egypt? Is it South Africa? Is it? Is it?
Talk your stuff, man.
Okay, who's backing us? Okay, something happens to an Asian. China and Japan are coming for that.
That's right.
Right? They're coming for you. And so when they put in this Asian this policy to protect the Asian people, if it didn't get voted in, guess what the money was going to happen? Money was going to start getting pulled out.
You're right, because I saw what happened with when that tweet with the NBA, I think the owner of Texas or Houston said that tweet, they stopped all communication. They stopped all telecast for the NBA. Shut that down. Yeah, LeBron on there apologizing.
hey, I think he told dude to shut up and GM.
Yeah, he shut up and dribbled in, didn't he?
90% of Yao Ming's contract was going to the country or something. He wasn't even getting his money. Like, he was turning his money to the country because they believe that, you know, it's country first. You know,
they on code, man.
Hey, look, this on code, let me tell y'all something. I think this was an extreme, but this is how extreme it is. Like, a woman escaped from, I think she was escaping from, it wasn't Vietnam, it was Korea, right? It was North and South Korea. She escaped from North Korea and I think got to China or something, and overnight. And their Bible says that their president is Jesus. So the whole time she thought in her country, you know what I'm saying, they didn't even know about anything else outside of their country. She had to learn that the Bible was actually written somewhere else. They thought that the Bible was North Korea and their king was Jesus and the Son of God, and it was God and then their king. Who's North Korea? The guy with Rodman, who always went to go see. What was his name?
Kim.
Yeah, Dennis Rodman. Yeah. King Jong-un or something.
He got his own Bible. He got his own Bible. So they're meant to have a mental communication that they do with starting with their young, where you don't even know what's going on in the rest of the world. And so that's how deep education can be if you're teaching the wrong thing to the youth. People won't even know what's going on outside their own neighborhood.
I do that with my kids, you know. So when you said that, I was like, look, I was shrinking. They don't know anything going on out here, but that's deep, man.
Yeah, and so, but America right now, like what's going on with the politics is we're scattered all over the place. We're not sticking together, man. And so we got to get in code because we're not getting anything passed that's really helping us.
That's right. I think they should have held the vote hostage when they had the chance. you know. But yeah, that's they should have done that, in my opinion. Everybody want to get Trump out.
They don't even have too many politicians, and they're Democrats or Republicans, right? Vote. They don't vote, you know, but they're on code. So what do we need to do to get on code like that?
Well, I'm gonna leave that to you.
That's the question. It's interesting though. Check it out. A lot of people are paying attention to what's happening now, and sometimes how politics, you know, works against us because we're always, like you said, shopping or worried about the game, or you know what I mean, things that have no relevance to our actual life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Affect us business wise.
Right.
Well, there's
I think some. Go ahead. Well.
No, I was just going to say I had you know, seen a really well put together thought young lady, Tierney Cherie. You could check out her page, African Esquire. But one thing she was talking about was there's a political immaturity that Black people have, and the focus ends up going on the vote. Now, even though, you know, and I don't agree with everything, you know, that's said on there, but I thought that was definitely spot on, because what she was saying is that to be able to be in position to have the power, you have to be able to have the economic power. You have to be able to, you know, providing your own food. You have to, you know, put your way. I think she had spoke about education, but specifically, she was talking about how economics end up, you know, affecting, you know, everything. You know, that's what lobbyists do.
Yeah.
You know, they get businesses that they match businesses up with politicians, and the businesses, you know, they put so much money in, and then by the time the politicians get in, you probably notice that there's a lot of winners and losers, right?
Yes. That's the game. That's the name of the game, man. And being in Pittsburgh, what we get an opportunity to see. I know you in Atlanta, but like here in Pittsburgh, we have a lot of little boroughs with a bunch of little mayors, you know, a bunch of little kings, right? And when you live in these little communities, if you go in there in the municipalities, you kind of find out what businesses are being run in your community, right? So depending on the businesses that are in your community, that's going to determine how much money's moving in your community. That's on a smaller scale. So
that's right.
We're able to see it on a smaller scale. So if we can get into local politics, we can see how you can get a job to a construction company, and it's a construction company that's from the neighborhood to build that park, right? The community needs a park. Who's getting the job? Are you hiring somebody from the suburbs to come do that job in the community, that park build? Or are you giving a construction job to this person that went to the school? He grew up now. He had a craft. He had a certification. He's sitting right in the neighborhood. They're giving a job to somebody else. And so if he had that job, now that money's in his pocket, he's paying taxes, he's buying a better house, or he's helping the community. So these are the little things we got to do on a smaller scale and pay attention, man. Go to your community board meetings, pay attention who are your representatives, vote for the local mayors and your local council people, man. It's important to know who they are, because those are who determine what business come in your neighborhood.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, and that's a good example, because up here in Pittsburgh, for example, what I notice is that I usually see the same construction companies that, you know, like whenever there's road construction, and anyone who's either been in Pittsburgh for some time knows that the city's always in construction.
Always
keep putting this cheap material down to keep people, you know, keep people's job security going. But whatever the case, you end up noticing that it's the same companies. And I noticed there are about 5 construction companies that, you know, that end up doing it. And, you know, what people need to realize is that it's a matter of you have to have the economics, you know, in place to be able to influence the politician. And, you know, it's, if people don't like it, it's a pay for play. You know, that's what it is.
Yeah, basically that's what it is. It's definitely pay for play.
We got got to get in the game too, man. Sometimes we don't even know how to sign up and register to get in the ball game. Some people even have the money, but they don't know how to register to pay to play. They don't know the game.
I mean, I noticed that a lot of African Americans don't own anything, so they don't care. You know what I'm saying? If you don't own a home, you don't know where your taxes. You're not paying property tax. If you running a business, you're going to be on top of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but most people don't want to run a business. They just want to get a job and go home and do their thing. From what I see, you know, I mean, I think Atlanta changed ever since the music industry changed it down here, but you know, more people of color is entrepreneur down here, you know, but you know, that's what I think.
But look at this fact though. I mean, when we turned over a lot to using a lot of the social systems that the help systems and the resources that America was giving us, Section 8, food stamps, WIC, and all those things. Some of those things the man had to be out of the house. So now he lost his economic grip on being able to budget, understanding how to buy a home, because he wasn't the one dealing with the home.
Right.
He was doing the street hustle. He still had a lot of economics savvy because he was hustling in the street, but he was turning the money over to the woman so she could bank and save that money, and he couldn't be in the house because then he'd have to purchase a home and have to do those finances and deal with the finances. So after being away from dealing with the finances so long, man, some of our males don't know how to handle that. You know, don't know that dynamic of budgeting, saving money, getting a loan, dealing with a house, and sometimes they don't want to admit it, so they just stick with the streets.
Man.
Yeah, that's a great point. Patrick's time. Government destroyed the Black community.
Right?
Yeah.
X. They actually took money out of work. You know, they separated it. But when we were just like the Jews when you look at it in the 1900s. Like if you look at the great debaters, and we were making money. Yes, we actually was working ourselves out of poverty on our own from 1940 to 1960s when we did the desegregation. Yes. You know, we had to work with each other, and now I don't know. Like you said, ever since 1964, they put that rule in place. I used to be a case worker when I was in Pittsburgh, and I remember many a times in the house, and I would see the guy's shoes in the under the bed. But I wouldn't tell, you know what I'm saying? Because they was going to lose their benefits. I'm being real. Yeah. So you can't get me now, can't fire me. But anyway, I saw that all the time. But it's funny that they took the well, I ain't gonna say they, but it was incentives to take the dad out the house, right? Yeah. So then you go to 1990s, 30 years later, because we never see the destruction when it happens when they pick these policies. 1993, now we got all these gang violence going on and people try to say it didn't happen, but I wasn't in them streets, but I was sneaking around trying to stay away from that stuff in Braddock. You know what I mean? And then so the Black Caucus was crying out for the government to help. And then they did that crime bill in 94. So now we're seeing the effects of that now. Yeah. But the crazy thing is they still voted for him. That's what I was sick about.
These policies, when they put them in, the problem is we're not there lobbying to get the small fine print to actually work for us. Because when they put in these policies, there's a lot of things, laws that go to help different things that don't even got to do with the main agenda of the policy.
But let's be real. They make it so complicated. We don't know what's in there.
That's true.
You know, like you need a lawyer to read it.
But it's meant that way. So we need lawyers. We need politicians who actually understand what's going on and understand that when the policy's been being put in place, it's not so important to have a letterhead like, okay, this policy is going to help Blacks. Is the policy actually doing something in the demographics of the communities that's actually bringing something positive into fruition? Like the crime bill, all it did was lock up poor Black kids that's at the bottom. They weren't even getting the top drug dealers. They were just locking everybody up on the RICO law. That didn't help the Black community. Now you got a bunch of single moms, a bunch of men that's in jail, a bunch of kids that's growing up without a father. How did that help us?
That's facts. What you think about that, Will?
Yeah, and I remember for some time. I was pre-Ubering. There was a service before Uber came out, called Jitney in Pittsburgh. But I remember back in that time, which was probably beginning of the 2000s, starting to see some of them come back. These are people that they went in 1994.
Yes.
1994, 15 years later, we do the math and we're looking at 2009. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yo,
a lot of people just coming out.
I still have family locked up since '99, still in there right now from our neighborhood. Yeah. So
wow.
And look how they're
crazy.
The opium epidemic. So but we can be progressive in saying that, okay, Biden was talking about some reform a little bit, and so that we don't get our kids going into the track of violence and criminality. But what are you going to do for all these men who were locked away and they're being treated in such a horrible manner, and you're not treating the opioid epidemic people in the same way? But these people spent 15 years in jail. Okay.
Yep.
Cell phones ain't even like how they were. Technology is nothing like what it used to be 15 years ago. These people some of them have to still try to have families, have to live, have to learn how to work in this environment. What are they going to do for these people? So if the government isn't going to do for them, what are we going to do about it? Right.
Right.
So this brings me back to my original question, so we're talking about, once again, the anti-Asian hate bill that was actually signed by President Joe Biden. And for the Black community, we're talking about where, hey, what you forgot about us. But once again, we have all of these different things that are a concern, whether they're, with gender, sexual preference, or different things like that. So I guess how do we or what can we do if no one's really willing to do that? Because what I'm noticing is that there were some people, like a lot of people are waking up now. A lot of people becoming free thinkers and things like that. But unfortunately, I would say not enough. And I remember there, about 7 years ago, whenever they were, or I guess it might have been when Trump had got in, and they were talking about the vouchers and things like that. So it was during the primaries. That's what it was for the presidential election. And all these people said that they started talking about public education was so great. I went to a public school, and they started touting all the things. And then a couple years later, people are, complaining about public education, the same people. So it just makes me wonder, like, why are people doing that? Why are people going against their own self-interest?
That's a good question. Follow the money trail. I think public education has become really, 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 really difficult to control. So rich people like to have control over education. I looked at what's the most wealthy foundation in the world, right? I wanted to know foundations that give away money. I want to know who's number one, who's in the top 5. I turned out to be this foundation. I think it's the Kamehameha, whatever fireball that they throw in Dragon Ball Z.
Kamehameha?
Yeah, look up that name. It's a foundation, right? And what they do is they fund education. I think Obama, if I'm not wrong, don't quote me, may have went to the school when he went outside of the United States. They said he went to school in some other country for a little bit, Sudan or something or somewhere. But what it is they figured the game out. Okay, the children are going to be the next people that run the world. So whatever they think or whatever they believe as a child, they're going to grow up and continue to practice whatever you taught them. So some of the most powerful thing you can do is to control the perception or the belief of a young person. And so education is very important, man. And so if they're going to put in the textbooks that you can't exclude against Asians, they make sure they got their bill in, right? we got to make sure whatever it is, however we got to solve this problem of getting politics in that actually work for us instead of against us. We got to figure this problem out so that they can put in the textbooks and our kids can be proud and grow up and want to continue to write laws that work for us.
Okay.
Good
point.
Yeah, I think we got to get off this symbolism stuff.
Yeah.
I lived in Michigan for a while, and I remember they were really excited about Kirkpatrick, I forgot his first name, becoming the mayor, and he destroyed that Detroit. They're like bankrupt when he left. He just got out of jail. I think he got out because of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And what they say, skin folks ain't your kin folk or whatever. But like this, I just say, a wolf is a wolf, man. Black wolf, white wolf, man. So we got to get off that symbolism, man. And we got to own our own business. Like business is freedom. Like we have to. That's the first thing. If you want control, I'll be thinking about this because my wife, she works in the works in the medical field, and if as a man, you got your woman telling her what to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to get back to that. Like, I mean, I don't know how women gonna feel about this, but they should have the option to work, to me. Like, we need black men making a lot of money and controlling the narrative in their household, but a lot of times we don't. Like, we got caught up in the industrial age. A lot of people I knew, my family was working in the mill, but the mill's not there anymore. Then you have all these women who are taking advantage of the school system. They're coming out with these masters and doctors, and they're making all this money, and the guys ain't really doing anything. That's my problem. The men is not doing their thing right now.
Yeah. You know what's a really good point as far as like why sometimes we don't get our policy in that works. We don't have anybody in.
Keep going, Fawn. I'm gonna just add on one of the callers, but keep talking.
We don't have anybody in who's masters of the registration system. Like, you got to register your car. You got to get certified if you want to say that you're a doctor or a lawyer or anything like that. If you even invent something, they can steal your idea if you don't know how to patent it. We got to start teaching each other how to transition our ideas into monetary without getting them stolen. We have so many ideas throughout history that always get stolen because we didn't know how to put a patent on it. We didn't know how to convert the business into the way America sees it as capitalism. We can make the money under the table, but when it comes time to register in the business, we need like a school of registry or something.
Man, I know you need to have money for a lawyer, man. You got to have a good lawyer and a good doctor, man. But you are so right. I was talking to somebody the other day who's doing stuff under the table, and I'm like, if you own a business, I know people in Atlanta right now, dude, during the pandemic, made $20 million in his business. He put everything in his LLC, right? When you put your stuff in the LLC, that's a person. And they're getting all this money from the bank. The bank is giving them $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. They're spending a third of it, and then and they're paying it back. They're giving them more money.
Yeah,
like we need to know these things. And it's not discrimination. It's just it's ignorance.
We don't know how to get it. We don't know how to go register to go get it. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yep. And this guy, I didn't talk to him. My friend talked. Hold on one second. My friend talked to him, and like you said, he didn't know nothing. He was like, "Well, what do I do?" He's in his 40s, So you're right about that, Fawn.
Yeah, it's tough.
Now, real quick on that.
In the building.
Yeah, we got Swanee G. Swanee, you had a little bit of background noise. Let me see if it's cool now. Hold on. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Yeah, what's going on? Good, brother. What you think about the conversation?
Well, first of all, good evening, my brothers. Another good conversation. I think it's one of the very important conversations we need to have more and more often. And two other points, Black-owned businesses. You see him sporting my man Eric Walker.
Okay.
Black-owned business. Now, I got to give you a little backstory about just owning your own business. Now, I'm an electrician. I've been thinking about opening my own business for years, but I've always been into, the apparel field. So what we did, just to give some information, is we searched. Okay, we always go back to education, self-education, study, research. Right, it's very important in every aspect of your life. So what we did was we went to St. Vincent's College, and we sat down with one of the research persons, and they sat down with us and talked about how to set up a business. Now I still have a whole business plan together right now to move forward, to go anywhere I need to go. And that's the most important thing, is to have a business plan. Write down everything you want to do. Write it down because it's important. And the second thing is, like Fawn says, get that patent. Okay, it's a process, but there's different ways that it's easily accessible to go get a patent and a trademark your brand, because that's the most important as well. I mean, you see Eric Walker's Height Apparel, it's all about trademarking. If you get that set in stone, yeah, go ahead.
Does he have a website or whatever so we can put that on the banner? Do you know?
I believe it's HyghtApparelPGH.com. That's HYGHT apparelpgh.com. I know he was getting a new website put up pretty soon. That might be the new one.
Shouts out to Eric Walker on starting that company. And the thing is too about that is we got to support, because when you have these other groups, man, they don't have to advertise because they promote each other. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I see Swan doing that, man. Like he got the hat on, he's repping, and so people get out there and see that we all supporting each other. We need more of that. That's
definitely
supporting each other's businesses, because we're not going to succeed on our own. And we got to take that attitude, that mentality, and have it spread, man, like wildfire.
Yep,
Absolutely.
Facts.
Very important.
Facts.
Yeah.
So, Swanee, what you think about the?
There you go.
What you gonna say? Go ahead, finish up. What you saying?
No, just a real quick thought. Just on that note, real quick. Just look out. For an example, the Indian community. There's nothing against the Indian community, but what do? They come in. They set up shop. They buy one house. They all live in that one house. They all go get a job. They get that job, bring that money back to the house, pay that house off, buy another house. They all go get another job, bring that money back. That house is paid off. Before you know it, they got a whole community of people. Right? So that's where our mind needs to be. That mindset needs to be back where we need to understand again, who we are. We are a special people. We need to understand that we have the gift. All we need now is the belief and trust in one another. I know it's some loyalty issues out here, but we got to be beyond that. We got to put all that stuff aside and work through it. That's the only way to get to where we need to go, is work through all the trust and the loyalties and everything else. So we got to start somewhere. We're gonna be left behind.
All right. So I have a question. So while we're talking about working together, there's been quite a few people that made it out of the hood, if you will, like Braddock or Homewood or wherever else you live. Why do you think people who make money leave out their hood? Where that tax money can go to the neighborhoods, right, and to the schools. What do you think about that?
I think, honestly, me, I grew up in Braddock. I grew up in Talbot Tires. And Ron, that I grew up in Talbot Tires, Braddock, PA. So for the first 10 years of my life, I've been in the projects. And even as a kid, we always talked about, when we get older, we're going to do this. We're going to be doctors, lawyers, football players, basketball players, and we're going to get up out the hood. Move our mom or grandma, we're going to move our family out the hood. So you got to understand the mindset at that time, because you got to understand there was a generation of our people or our parents or our grandparents or maybe our great-grandparents as well that was on the government system. They depended on the government system. So for generations, we were stuck and trapped. okay, into a system, and we can never break that bond. Okay, that's why I'm so excited about this generation right now, because well, as you said, there's a lot of free thinkers, there's a lot of conscious thinkers out there right now, and they're researching and they're studying, but that mindset comes from that, and we have to learn how to break that curse. Okay, because the moment we get something, we get a good job, we move out the hood. And quite frankly, I'm one of them. I grew up in the Woodland Hills district my whole life. And I moved when I was 24 years old. No, I got married at 24 and I moved in 2008, 4 years later, out of Braddock and Rankin. My family's still in Braddock and Rankin. Nothing wrong with that. But to the point you made is, I think it's not just that. I think it's what we do. Whatever resources we have, we need to bring it back. Okay. Yeah, I left, but my presence is still in Braddock and Rankin. You know what I mean? Building up the next generation of kids. The Rankin Christian Center and the Salvation Army and Braddock and Rankin is one of those key things. And we need to get back to that. The Rankin Christian Center and Salvation Army saved a whole lot of people. You know what I mean? And that connection keeps me grounded. You know what I mean? I don't care how much money I make. They talk about millionaires all the time. If I'm a millionaire and I got to pay my taxes, I'm going to pay my taxes, because you know what? At the end of the day, I'm going to be a millionaire. And so is my next brother and my next brother to the left and right of me. And that's my mindset. You know what I mean? We got to make it together. You know what I mean? And bring that back to the community. Now, there's a whole lot of people out there that made it and ain't doing nothing. And we know who they are. We ain't got to say no names, but it's unfortunate.
Hey, I'm going to add to that, Swan. It's going to get a little hot and heated in here, because I think, honestly, it's tough, because when you don't get to own anything in your community, sometimes you feel like, well, at least I might go get a nice house and move to a nice neighborhood, because they're not allowing us to own anything in our communities, man. We have to put our money together and in groups and do group economics, because when you go to the bank and they see you're black, they're not giving you the loans. But if you go in with a group powerful enough with enough money, they can't fight but argue the money, because they want the money. And enough of our people from our community are not coming together with the same ideas so that we can own things. So, man, when you coming up and you grew up in the community, I grew up in Wilkinsburg. My family moved their house to Church Hill. Same reason. We wanted a little better environment. Maybe if we was able to really own things in Wilkinsburg and the money was
y'all ain't want to get shot. Just keep it 100.
But if you own it, then you will respect it.
I was living there for 8 on South Street, South Avenue.
So
80 to 89. Yeah, we got the heck out of it.
But look, Wilkinsburg used to be an all white neighborhood. It's actually the KKK used to march down Penn Avenue.
Yes.
So Wilkinsburg wasn't even always a black neighborhood, but the blacks came and moved into Wilkinsburg, and then they couldn't own anything, and so they're violent. Poverty, it brings violence. So if you have people owning the neighborhood and they're renting, you only renting the houses, you're not owning it. Now we're owning a little bit of the houses, right? But we're not owning any stores. We got to move faster. We got to move better. We got to own real estate, but also the stores in the community. So now that's the next step, right? Now we got to get into the mayor's office. Now we got to decide who's getting the contracts. Mm-hmm. So all those different aspects we got to attack before we feel comfortable with living in our communities, because there's always going to be those gatekeepers.
Yes.
And all those different positions I just named, that's not allowing the plan to come into fruition.
But just saying you're going to get a black person there doesn't mean you're going to get that contract, because they shady too. There's a lot of nepotism going on, man.
Yeah.
In fact, here's the thing, though. On the other end, and I agree with a lot of what you were saying, Fawn. If a lot of black people did do that, it does bring the possibility of gentrifying our own community. So, and I know that concept sounds weird. A lot of people don't talk about it, but you can, so someone had said last week that everybody can't go. Everybody can't come, basically. So there is the possibility of that effect. And the people that are there, they may look at those people a little bit differently, like oh, you think you all this or whatever. So I just think that the education part, ahead of time, it's going to definitely be key.
Yes.
Because if you have a bunch of like let's say all four of us come through and we're just buying up property in Braddock or something like that, there's going to be a lot of hate going on.
Crabs in the barrel, that's what they call it, right?
And if regardless of what color we fix some houses up, then the property value is going to go up, and it's going to end up affecting someone. So I don't, me personally, that's one of the things I always thought about, to where it's like I understand the problem with gentrification, but I don't have as much of a problem with it as long as everyone is willing to do things to elevate, everyone. Because, honestly, if, for example, Homewood, where I grew up, that's a big thing happening right now. When we saw the Animal Rescue League move up Hamilton a little bit closer, we already knew what it was hitting for. When we saw, joggers jogging through
people
the
jogging.
Yeah, we already.
Lanes, when they put in the bicycle lanes.
I go where the joggers are.
Yeah, but it's a matter of people got to be ready for that, or they may not be there,
or buy the homes, because if you own the homes and they're coming through to purchase and build, they're going to have to pay you more money.
Mm-hmm.
We got to find some way to get some money out the deal, at least have some real estate, so when they're coming to gentrify, they got to pay you high value for the property.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Now to that point, and Will, to your point too, as far as, and Fawn, I heard you earlier, you guys were talking about getting involved with our local politicians. Our local politicians are the most important people. Okay, whether we like it or not, whether we vote or not, the local people in our neighborhoods who can control our neighborhoods are the ones we need to go to. Like, for example, the mayor Braddock Fetterman, he's not there anymore. He's lieutenant governor right now. But just think about the time when he was in mayor of Braddock, and he had all that access to all that land in Braddock. Now, you would think, growing up in Braddock, how did he have access first? And I posed this question on Facebook maybe last year, and the whole community kind of chimed in. It's like, Fetterman got all that land. But what I did find out is that the county owns the majority of that land. Now, just think about this. The county, in their justification purposes, because it's happening in East Liberty. See, what they're doing is they're pushing us out, setting up shop, and putting these homes up for rent. Now, let's think about what we're talking about. We need to own our things. Now, for example, if I'm a developer, I want to make sure I set up shop. If I can build 100 homes, I'm going to build 100 homes, and I'm going to set it up for people when they get in there. It'll be a process for them to own that house. So once they own it, they can pass it down to their children. Their children can pass it down to their children. That's how we keep the community going. We have to own, but to get into that, to get that information, we have to go to our local politicians, our state representatives, are the most important. The presidential, candidates is not really involved. We need to focus on the local and state politicians to even get anywhere, to get a foothold in the door. And me being, in the position I'm in as president of my union, I have the ability to talk to many different politicians. For example, Summer Lee, she's a state representative for District 34, which covers Braddock and Rankin, Swissville, and most of Woodland Hills District. We were the only union, were the only union that endorsed her. Out of all these unions in Pittsburgh, we were the only unions that endorsed her. And she came and spoke at our convention. And she's a ball of fire. She's excellent. And that's how you build. We have to build relationships with our people. Her being the first Black woman elected to that position, it speaks volumes. And we need to, continue to connect and network with those folks, because they have tons of networking and information. And being that Ed Gainey is now mayor-elect of Pittsburgh, Summer and Ed, they were tight. right? And I've been to a couple outings with all of them. And I met the mayor, Duquesne. I've been meeting politicians everywhere. And we have to have the courage enough to step up and just we got to be the voice for our people. Listen, people can't speak. Listen, let us be the voice.
We really have to pay to play. Like if you notice, anytime a politician go behind a candidate, they're giving them a lot of money. Think about Obama. Like Obama had the gay community in Hollywood pay him. So then when he went in there, he catered to his base. Yeah. Like if you look at 08, he didn't make promises to black people. To be honest, like look at his debate. We ain't giving money like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. In the heat of the moment, are we going to ante up? Okay, we got Ed Gainey. We got Summer Lee. Even Wilkinsburg got a black mayor. So we're getting people in positions now. Are we going to put money in their pockets so that they carry out the policies that we want? I mean, we can't let this opportunity just go by. And then 5 years from now, we're like,
correct.
They throw us under the bus. Every problem that Pittsburgh had the past 20 years, they're going to blame it on Ed Gainey.
What the Bible say? Basically, you're a slave to the lender. So if you give somebody money, they're going to fulfill what you want because they want to be reelected and they need that campaign money. If you're not giving them money, they ain't going to do anything.
We got to put up or show up. Put up or show up.
You know what? This is actually a perfect segue into the other segment of what we were going to talk about. So recently, if you guys have been following, I remember Kwame Brown actually called this out. He was talking about a lot of the NBA players, a lot of the athletes that have money. And one of the things he was saying was that if they were to put their money together, they could build, towns and different things like that. But he's speaking a lot, and I don't know. A lot of people like what he's saying. Some people's feeling uncomfortable. What y'all think about what Kwame Brown's out here saying?
He's spoke 100. Period. I mean, listen. He came off. Some people he came off. Kind of. Some people may say it's angry or mad or whatever. He came off as a real man to me. He came off and spoke his mind. There was a lot of comments that Charlamagne Tha God from the Breakfast Club brought up. That was just wrong. Charlamagne should have never brought that up at all. You know what I mean? And that triggered some things. And so we got to understand our people. There's a lot of things that trigger us, and that triggered something. In Kwame, and he spoke. He spoke relevantly to the point, and I feel him 100% on how you feel, and he just exposed them, and they worked for, I think they're owned by iHeartRadio. We gotta understand who owns these businesses. They're really in there, not really doing nothing, not really talking about the real issues. You know what I mean? And he was right. I listened to his whole thing, and he was right.
I was one of the ones that called him a bust. And it's probably because of Stephen A. Smith, when Stephen A. Smith made his career off of calling him a bust, But looking back, he did make a lot of good points, man, about, he played 12 years, and when he brought up the point where he was, didn't have shoes and living with Charlamagne talked about his family history. If people don't know, talking about his dad was a killer and just demean. And that's what they usually do. Yeah. It's a tactic, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're spitting knowledge, they have to take away your character so people won't follow you. That's what was going on.
Hey, that was some military war tactics, my man.
Yes.
Man, he dug deep in the bag right there. That was some Genghis Khan art of war tactics.
He's a product of Wendy Williams.
Hey, what? He flipped the whole thing on them because he took a situation where they had been clowning this man for years. And at the end of the day, I may not agree with some of the personal things he is saying and about some of the people here and there. But if you pay attention, the man brought it down to the fact that why you got a lot of these people, gatekeepers and people that are not allowing, black people to succeed. You're on the air talking about kicks and jumps, and you should be talking about building the black community. He used that platform to talk about something real, and I respected him for that. Because at the end of the day, all these people at all these different shows, they could be putting their money together and helping the Black community, but they're not.
Yeah. When he said that, when he said there's 400 NBA players and none of them do business together. I was like, whoa.
That comes back to when we were talking about when they get drafted
last week.
NFL, they have these professionals that come talk to them and advise them about where to put their money and how to invest. And a lot of times they're not going to get them investing together to do group economics that help our socioeconomic environment in the Black neighborhoods. They're not going to teach them that and have them. We got to fight while we got these politicians in office right now. Give them some money and say, look here, we need you to do this in our community. We need these people to get the jobs. We need these people to get the contracts. We need this law to come into effect in our school. Hold up. What's the curriculum in the school? We don't like that curriculum. Go get this curriculum. It's talking about Africans built the pyramids instead of aliens. You feel me?
Yeah.
These are the little things that we don't pay attention to. So a kid could be growing up knowing that his ancestors built the pyramids instead of thinking, oh, the pyramids were built by aliens. These little things make a difference. There's different curriculums out there when you have in your public schools. So that's a thing with public and private schools. When you have money, you can pay and put your kid in a situation where they're hearing the things you want them to hear. When you don't have money.
What you think about the voucher system that Trump was talking about?
School voucher?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I think like education should definitely be something that's determined by the family, man. I don't know about that voucher system. I gotta look more into it.
Just because we were, if you look in the Black community, sorry to cut you off, but most people, if the school district was bad, they're going to use their aunt's information so the kid can bust to go to a better school. And then if they get caught, they're in trouble. You know what I mean?
But check it out. How many of us, be honest with you, I have a shared custody situation. I don't live in the same neighborhood as my son's mother. So what are they going to do to me if my house, you know what I'm saying, I have shared custody, and then he lives with his mom, she got shared custody. We can put him in either school.
Yeah. Go
to school in my neighborhood or her neighborhood legally, and they have to respect the court document. See, families are starting to get smart because when you're white, you can get around that. You can put your school in whatever system you want because of the money. So we have to find ways to get our kids in the schools that we want them in. You know what I mean? And this voucher system, I'm going to look more into it. So I'm not going to knock it till I actually look more into it. But we know that anything that they put out always has like a backtrap. There's always some thing that we thought it was good in the beginning. At the end, we get caught up in something that we didn't know that was coming.
And Umar Johnson still don't have that building.
Yeah. I'll send him to that school when he opened that up. Waiting for that, right? Come on, Umar. Maybe, but though it might be on the gatekeeper.
A 21-year-old in Georgia who got the building quicker than that, huh?
Yeah,
he got his in 2 years.
He might have a lot. That's black.
You got to think about back in the the segregation days. When we were, just think about it, when we were segregated amongst ourselves, we had our schools, we had our own churches, we had our own banks, we had our own everything. And of course they came and bombed it, tore it down. They made an excuse to tear it down. Now there's been over 20 black massacres across the United States. Okay, if you guys didn't know that. And of course, the one you mentioned, I think last week about the one in Philly, the MOVE movement back in 1985, and they dropped C4 on the top of that roof. Anytime we think about black progress, it's a threat to white supremacy, period. And that's what happened to our communities. Once we start integrating into public school systems, we've been to be a part of that system, which is dividing the people. Think about it, it's really dividing us because now we got folks everywhere scattered across the whole school district. Woodland Hills, Homewood, Wilkinsburg, Shenley, Westinghouse, and everything else, instead of having our own school system, period. Teaching our kids, the true history. And I like to say now, study the past, not study the history. You know what I mean? Study the past. because it's important, because the public school system is set up and designed to keep us, I'm going to keep it straight up, keep us dumb, okay, and keep us ignorant and keep us dependent on the government, keep us in mental slavery. Yes, and that's really what it's designed for. So if we're not educating ourselves as adults, as parents, we need to do that and then educate our children. Although they're in the school system, we need to understand at the same time, we need to educate them as well, intelligently, because, if you go back and say, well, there's a firmament in the sky, and they go back to school and say, oh no, this the globe, and so on and so forth. And that's just one example. But we got to be careful, and we got to understand, how to play it.
Well, that
I think we got to get into. I think we got to.
Go ahead, Ron.
But I think we have to. It might be controversial, but we have to tell our kids what to do, not have them say whatever you want to do. Then they go to school for some, English or something. You know what I mean? Like, we need doctors. We need scientists. Like, I told my kids, like, this is what you're studying. That's what other cultures do. That's how the Jews got out of their situation, because they came in here as seamstress. And they said, look, I'm going to support you. Go, you're going to be an attorney. You're going to be this, you're going to be that. And truth be told, African Americans bailed out Jews because white people wasn't doing business with them. We start doing business, and they created that thing of Hollywood. They became our lawyers, our doctors, and different things like that. Back in the day, in 1900s, they were teaching us in our schools, and we just didn't take the same. We almost did, because, like I said, from 1940 to 1964, we were working our way out of poverty. We had our doctors, we had our lawyers in the in the 50s. And we bailed away from that. Right now, if you talk to a woman, they want to be a nurse, they want to be a doctor. Like they're settling for like smaller jobs. They're not trying to run a school. They're trying to be the teacher.
All these different ethnic groups have come in, studied, learned off of our people, and gone on to make lots and lots of money. There's not an ethnic group in this country that hasn't come to America and had to been put next to the black man because they were considered also not pure white European. Okay? Whether if it was the Irish, the Jews, the Italians, they came in. If you ever seen the movie Gangs in New York, that depicts all of that. A lot of these groups were they weren't seen as pure white. Some of them were considered niggers too. Sorry for using that word, but they were calling them the N-word also. And so they were right next to us. But the difference is they were allowed to turn that bootleg liquor money from the Kennedys into him being president. They let him whitewash that money. Okay, you had the Bush. You had Prescott Bush. He was like the Tony Starks. He was selling weapons to Germany during the World Wars. His grandson went on to be president of this country. Okay, you have mafia that were doing underground business in America, dirty underground business, and a lot of them own stores and they own clubs to this day. Okay, it's only our group that is not allowed to flip that dirty money or that poverty economic level into something positive and viable, and they always keep us in the jail systems. We got to find a way around that. No excuses. I
don't know if there's no right way around that. That's a lot of money, man. That billionaire class, that's a whole different class.
What Swanee was saying, the patenting, the trademarking, we're the ones who are inventing everything. You know what I mean? The problem is that we're not being detailed about it when we do these things, and we're not helping our brothers out. We had too many brothers hating. My man got a clothing company. I'm not supporting him. But I could have lawyers and say, you know what? I'm gonna have my lawyer call him to make sure that, that any business deal he does, he does it properly. We have all the connections in the world, and we keep them from each other, and then we wonder why we're not successful.
Mom be on the roll. Woo. That's deep. You're right.
We gotta stop hiding.
That's real.
Because we didn't start the clothing company. Because it's, you know what I'm saying, I'm not gonna support, the talk show because it ain't my talk show. No, I'm gonna go to my Cash App when the show over, and I'm gonna Cash App whatever 10, 15, 20, $100 I got to support the show because y'all doing something positive. And we need more Black brothers to support each other when we see each other doing business instead of pulling up some dirt about each other from the past, like they do with all our superstars, Bill Cosby, Morgan Freeman. We repeating the same thing they do, the trauma they caused to us, you know what I'm saying, in our little communities. We don't want to do business with them because something happened in 95.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that you get resentment. So you just like, at some point you give up and you say, I'm out of here. I'm going to do my own thing, you know? So
we got to break that curse. It's a curse amongst our people. We got to break that curse. I'm gonna say it straight. We got to break that curse, and that's
right.
As clean as I can say it. It's a curse, and we got to break it. We got the evil eye towards our brother, and that's a problem.
Right.
Because you hear about. I'm sorry. You hear about.
Go ahead.
You hear about Kwame Brown go out? He went after Boyce Watkins today. You hear about that?
I heard about that. But Boyce Watkins, I heard he was trying to give some information about him being careful about his podcast or whatever. But Kwame said, "Nah, man, you should have called me. You should have. Why didn't you call me and tell me that?"
Yeah,
that's a good point.
He's going after everybody.
He's going.
But initially I thought it was more like, I was like, oh, come on, Kwame. But that's a really good point, because behind the scenes, a lot of people don't know. There's a lot of people talking to that brother. Tommy Sotomayor, Star Report. These guys, they're sewing into him behind the scenes. So like saying like, hey, make sure when you do your setup this, and they're not really taking credit for it. That's what I noticed. He's shouting them out. Yeah. So I do get his point, because it's kind of like I honestly don't think that Dr. Boyce Watkins meant anything by it. But at the same time, I think that we need to be more strategic with the way that we go about things. And speaking of that, something you had mentioned earlier, Swanee, I think Fawn talked about it too, but I just wanted to share a little bit of information. Some of the places that, if you are looking to start a business, you need to have a business plan. If you don't have someone in a neighborhood or whatever that's able to help you out, I know that Duquesne University up in Pittsburgh has a small business development center. University of Pittsburgh, and I think this stuff is free. And if wherever you are, all the way in Cali and Georgia or whatever, just look up Small Business Development Center, SBDC, however, they have it, the U.S. Small Business Administration. Even if they don't, get you all the way to what you want, at least take whatever's there. You're paying the taxes anyway, so you're already supporting them. So why not have them support you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's real important.
That's true. And also too, man, we got to start having with our businesses, we got to make sure we have some goals and rules, and you know how they have fight songs when you play for a sports team. We got to have some morals and stuff with our businesses where we have like some type of allegiance with some moral practices. Like if you haven't, look, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. You were mentioning a cultural group like the Jews, the European Jews. They don't tax each other when they do business. This is how they get ahead. They go out of town. They're sleeping in a restaurant by someone who's from the same ethnic group. They don't pay tax. They do business with each other. They ship things, and they don't charge each other interest.
You're right.
Like that, because they use religion and stuff like that. And so we got to find some way to help each other when we do business with each other. That gives us some incentive to do business with each other. That would help. That would help. Okay, when I'm doing business with this with my community that looks like me, I'm getting this privilege that I'm not getting when I go with somebody else outside the community. So all these Asians and these other ethnic groups, they have privileges when they're doing business with each other. We don't have no system set up so where we can we're rewarding each other for doing business with each other.
It's funny you say that, because I was when I was in Michigan, my wife worked for this Jew, and he was a millionaire. He dressed down. I remember he took us to this this country club. It was rich, and we dressing in suits because we didn't know how to dress. We go in there, these people dressed like bums.
Dressed down.
I was like, man, I was so out of place. But anyway, one day he told me because I was doing I was trying to get business, so I was asking him like, hey, can you give me some referrals? And he was like, look, he gave me a couple numbers, and he said, if they don't deal with you, I'm not dealing with them. And as soon as I called them up, they hooked me up, so you're right about that. Like, he ain't take nothing from me, or so I got a little taste of what Fawn was talking about.
Yeah.
You know,
we tried to do it here. It was who was that thing that was going down last year? They were saving money in groups, and then somebody would get the money, then they keep saving money.
Susu.
The fake Susus.
That sounds like a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
Look, they messed it up. Look,
It's all wrong, man.
Look, that's an old African tradition.
Yeah, Fawn, tell them where that come from, Fawn.
Look, how they messed it up was, we call it, different countries call it different things. We called it Jangi. Basically what it means is we all come together, we all save money together, and then one time someone gets the money, but they continue paying in. How it got messed up was people would get in it, and as soon as it'd be their turn to get the money, they wouldn't come back and pay no more. It's so if you have 12 people, right? I pay $100. We got 12 parties, right? Every party we get together, our family comes, we have food, we have a cookout, we're supposed to eat, party, and have like a subject that we talk about, right? So I bring my $100, there's 12 boys. We all bring $100. Guess what, Swanee? Today's your month. You get $1,200. You feel me? So next month, it might be my month. You bring it. Now all you gotta do is take one of that 100 and bring it for next month. You feel me? So now next month, I get the 1,200. Next month, you get the 1,200, Will. But we're supposed to keep doing it every year. What people was doing was they'll put their 100 in. They'll be in it for 2 months. When their month come up, they're gone out the door. They don't ever come back. So,
It's sort of like that PPP application.
That was deep. That's another.
That's
a whole nother story. We ain't gotta get into that.
Yeah. So if people don't understand how something really works, like Swan said, you got to look up the history behind the real practice. We too much times take an idea and rush it and try to hurry up and do it. Then we say it don't work.
Yeah.
So, but if they took the time to actually study the cultural practice and what it was, they'll see that it's more about family building and unity building and community building rather than getting your 1,200.
But that starts in the home, man. Like you said, like you said, you guys had y'all tradition. That's the dad put that on. You know what I'm saying? Like he regulated it. Right. You know, so it's like I think everything that we talk about, it steers from the dad got to run everything in the house, man. He got to be in the house. You know, like when I learned when I was in Michigan, the Barry Gordy, like their family did this in the 50s. That's how he was able to start that company. They all put in the pot and then they voted on what to use the money for. Yeah. And so he asked to do that, and that's how it was like $5,000 at the time, which is big money in the 50s. You know, but like what I stress to my kids, like we all save together. Like you say, we say together, we vote on it, what we're gonna use that money for. You know, we stress business, you know. So you're right about that.
Keep that up. My family does that too. We meet, you know, we all put money in and we decide what we do with it. Whether we're gonna invest it, whether we're gonna start a business. I think if you're not throwing that out there, America, if you're listening, get a couple of your brothers together, start having a family meeting on Sundays, even if y'all putting $10 a week. If there's 10 of y'all, that's $100. Start adding up. You'll see that in a year, you'll have like a couple $1,000.
People you know, like, and trust, though. That's the big one.
But it all starts with you got to have a moral grounding, man. Got to have a moral system set up in place. We have to get back to where people was before. It was a moral system. We had standards, man, and we trust. The trust was never an issue, man. We look at it at modern America now, in the modern world now, and we look at, you know, even our own community and the whole susu that was just messed up. You know, you got to understand the broke-minded mentality. We still got that captive mind. So when we get that little $1,200 from Susu, it's people are taking that and running. You know what I mean? They ain't putting no dollars back in. You know, that's what 100 is you know, that's what is that? 3 pair of Jordans now? Because George is like $400 a pair now. You know, but
Man,
it's just
don't do business with broke people,
man.
I swear to you, I'm not gonna lie. The key to that is the social aspect. It's the meeting, just like they call it church or whatever.
Yep.
The gathering, the ritual practice of coming together and talking to each other. It's easier to trust somebody when you meeting them once a week or once a month. People was worried about the susu. They was worried about just getting the money. They weren't worried about what are we going to do at that party. Are we going to have a speaker that talks about financial literacy? Are we even having a meet together? Or are we just splitting money every month?
Was this all like all black people, or was it like a different people in the group?
There was so I can speak on it because I was in a few, and the majority of them were, you know, so-called our folks, there's black folks, and there was a whole lot of information with some misinformation, you know, as well. And with the misinformation, that was part of the problem as well. And the one important thing about it is the meeting was nobody sitting down and talking. There wasn't in the one I was in, but the other ones, there was no conversations. It was like, all right, well, what did I do? There was no information given. You know, just contact so and so, just cash app so and so, and that was it. I mean, come on now. We have to have when we come together as a people, we got to speak. We have to talk, and if we're not talking and conversating, then you're going to lose a whole lot of interest, and it's going to be some mistrust, and that's going to be the breaking down. You know, when we don't communicate and meet and gather and fellowship, there's going to be problems if we don't do that.
Got to meet, got to gather, got to have that think tank mentality, because you warm up with something. The best teams are the teams that fought, struggled, blood, sweat, and tears together.
Absolutely.
They just throw you together. You know what I'm saying? You ain't knocked your brother down, helped him back up. He knocked you down, helped you back up. You can't trust each other. So these simple things that other cultures do. Speaking
from a Whip Hill champion, keep talking your talk. Go ahead.
Willing Hills football, you know how we do a look, we bleed faith and believe in each other and pride, guys. So look, same thing comes with the family. If you're not meeting, and when you think, okay, I don't need that person, I don't need to meet with him, I can do it on my own, then you don't believe in him no more. When it comes down to do business, you can't do business with the other side of the family. There's plumbers, there's doctors, lawyers on the other side of the family. If y'all not coming together, eventually y'all gonna grow apart.
Yeah.
Okay.
More of the story. Get that contract.
Right. And I think that I'm gonna sue you. But yeah, I think that we definitely got a lot out, and you know, I always want to look towards the different solutions. First off, I don't even want to call those a susu, because it kind of takes away from the power of what's been done in those different African tribes and countries, and as well as other groups. They had a version of it. So I'll just continue to call it the so-called susus.
So-called.
Right. But I think this was definitely a powerful and needed conversation. And I think that as we keep on having these conversations and keep on adding things to the table, and we'll be able to come up with different solutions, and we'll be able to get people to be able to work together. So I thank you, brothers, for coming on, for sharing your knowledge and expertise. LeBron J, he the historian over there.
Just want to leave y'all with, man, just put respect on Kwame's name. I'm rolling with Kwame, man.
That boy's name. Shouts out to too, man, for his political trying to put together a law for us.
Right.
Example.
Definitely.
For real.
Definitely.
One real quick, the dope thing I like about Kwame before we depart is all that money he's getting, he's buying shoes for the people in his community, and I think that's dope.
Free
donate. But that's dope.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, cool. Well, definitely, love you, brothers. Thank you for coming on. Definitely a dope conversation. Let's keep it moving, keep it going. keep it, pushing forward.
Like, keep it positive. One love. See y'all boys again next time. Shots out.
Hey, Will, can I say one thing real quick?
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna give a shout out to my man LeRon Josie, man. Listen, back in 1988 or 89, whenever the Sega Genesis came out, he was the first one with it in the hood. He was the first one with the Sega Genesis. So listen, hey, Josie was my best friend in Braddock. He had the Ultra Beast and whatever else was on Sega at that time, man. It was dope, man. He used to always love coming over his crib, man, and play that Sega Genesis. Man. He inspired me to want to go get me a Sega Genesis. So we need to inspire you.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. You're going to come down south, man. Chill with me down here, man. Have a good time,
Atlanta.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. You got somebody to go see down here,
All right, no doubt, man. Hey, I'm going to be making a stop in Atlanta in June, man. I might have to come see you.
Let's do it.
That's a plan.
Shout out to my boy Chaz. We're going to have a good time. You come down here, man. Hit me up.
All right, y'all boys have a good one.
All right.
I love y'all brothers, man.
All right.